Oscars slapping scandal with Will Smith publicly apologising to Chris Rock.
The PR people have been very busy in the last few hours because the apology has come out.
Will Smith lived much of his life in the spotlight, but a single moment destroyed everything. What looked like a split-second reaction has escalated into global headlines, public backlash, and questions about what was happening behind closed doors in his marriage. As rumors and speculation spread, one claim kept circulating online, leaving fans curious about the truth. Did this single incident really push their relationship to the breaking point? And was it the moment everything between them finally fell apart? Join us as we unravel how Will Smith's wife left him after this happened. The breaking point. The supposed power couple, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, are in the news again for their unconventional relationship. Ever since they got married, the couple has long been open about the unconventional nature of their relationship. In recent years, both have acknowledged living largely different lives while still maintaining a deep emotional connection. Jada shared some new details while promoting her new book, Worthy. According to Jada, she and Will did not sign a prenup before their wedding, and the reason was because she had essentially promised never to divorce him. Her stance at that time was that no matter what, they were going to figure it out, and that's why they didn't need a prenup. Yet that hasn't stopped the Hollywood couple from being the subject of discussion for years. As for whether Jada has kept her promise, well, something happened that blew the lid, and it all traces back to 2022. The movie, King Richard, performed so well that it went on to be nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Actor, and by March, Will Smith was the frontrunner for the win. Winning an Oscar is never a sure thing, even for those at the top of the betting odds. But Smith was about as dominant as any Best Actor candidate had ever been. That night at the Dolby Theater, his victory was practically a foregone conclusion. With only about 1 hour to go before his dream of winning an Oscar seemed all but guaranteed to come true, Will Smith did something that he'll surely regret for the rest of his life, and he did it for his wife. Chris Rock had taken the stage to present the award for Best Documentary Feature. As is standard procedure for Oscar presenters, Rock had some pre-written material to deliver before listing the nominees. He started by teasing husband and wife Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz, who were both nominated for lead actor and actress respectively.
Javier Bardem and his wife are both nominated. Now, if she loses,
Then the stand-up comedian went off script and turned his attention to Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, who sat in the front row near the center. The offending punchline that caused the chaos was, "Jada, I love you, G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it."
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
At first, Will was laughing as if being a good sport about it, but an eye roll from Jada stopped him. A moment later, he stood, walked on stage toward Chris, and slapped him across the face with his open right hand. Will then returned to his seat, where he looked decidedly more upset than he'd been only a few seconds before, and began shouting at Chris, telling him to get his wife's name out of his mouth. Because awards shows frequently feature celebrity skits and stunts, people in the room as well as people watching on TV were genuinely confused. They couldn't tell whether the slap was a clumsily executed attempt at comedy or a real altercation between Will Smith and Chris Rock. However, those seated close to Will and Jada seemed to realize what was happening in real time. Oscar watchers at home got their first clue that the slap was real when the audio cut out during the American broadcast. ABC airs live programs in the United States on a 20-second delay. Had the tense exchange been a bit, the network wouldn't have taken this step. In the uncensored version, Chris's shock is apparent in the way he reacted to the assault. Despite the deeply uncomfortable tension in the Dolby Theater, he still had to award the Oscar for Best Documentary to Questlove for his film Summer of Soul, in front of a still confused crowd. Now, while Will Smith's behavior was inexcusable, Chris Rock's joke was also criticized in the immediate aftermath of the slap. Some commenters merely pointed out that the joke, which was a reference to a nearly 25-year-old movie, wasn't very funny. However, the majority of those discussing the G.I. Jane line and the slap brought up Jada Pinkett Smith's alopecia diagnosis. Jada had initially gone public with her condition 4 years before in an Instagram post. She explained that she chose to shave her head when patches of her hair began to fall out, because she didn't want anyone to think that she had undergone something more serious, such as brain surgery. She said dealing with and talking about the medical condition was difficult, but she remained in good spirits. The post was viewed more than 2 million times, so the alopecia condition was fairly common knowledge by 2022. Many people believe this was what triggered Will. They believe he wouldn't sit and watch Kris make fun of his wife when she had a medical condition. Others seem to think differently. If that was the case, then why did he laugh at first? Probably no one will ever know. But Jada herself? She recently said something about Will Smith that turned the internet upside down. She never wanted him. For the past few years, Jada had been from one interview to another. She just did another interview recently, and frankly, what she said this time might be the most revealing thing she has ever admitted publicly. It has nothing to do with the words themselves, it's more about what they actually expose when one reads in between the lines. In this latest conversation, Jada sat down and started explaining how it is not Will's responsibility to make her happy. She talked about how she spent years being hard-headed and stubborn, clinging to this romantic idea that if she checked all the boxes, if she did everything she was supposed to do, then she would get to live out her dream the same way Will got to live out his. And then she said something that shocked people. She said Will was out there doing what he wanted to do, and he was making himself happy. And when she said that, the way she said it, with that tone, with that energy, it became crystal clear what is really happening here. It seems Jada is not upset that Will did not make her happy. She is upset that Will made himself happy and succeeded at it while she feels like she did not get the same opportunity. And that, to be honest, is not a complaint about a marriage. It is more like resentment. It is obvious jealousy packed in a jar of self-reflection. Jada was blatantly telling the world that the reason she did not reach the same heights as Will Smith is because she was too busy being dedicated to the relationship. She is framing her career trajectory as a sacrifice she made for the marriage. But that doesn't seem to be the case, because it does not hold up under any kind of scrutiny. Jada is a woman who had her own television show, a talk show that ran for years, who appeared in major motion pictures, who had every resource and connection available to her through one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. She was not locked in a tower somewhere unable to pursue her dreams. She had more access, more opportunity, and more support than 99% of people in Hollywood will ever see. So when she frames the narrative as though she was held back while Will was out thriving, one could say that she is rewriting history to position herself as the victim of his success. And that explains everything one needs to know about the dynamic here. However, Jada dropped a bombshell that absolutely no one expected. Recall when she said they would work things out? Apparently what she meant was that they may not sign papers, but they would still go their separate ways, because in October 2023, when she began promoting her memoir, she revealed something completely shocking. She shared that they had actually been separated since 2016. That one bombshell rewrote years of public perception. That's 10 years of not being together. Suddenly, that infamous 2020 episode where they appeared to have made up hit differently. The world realized that when she and Will sat there discussing it for millions to see, they weren't even together. It had all been part of the public performance they maintained for the cameras. It didn't stop there. Jada revealed that even on that now famous Oscar night in 2022, when Will marched onto that stage to defend her honor, the two hadn't been a real couple in any sense for 6 years. Somehow, the public perception of Will shifted dramatically. He wasn't just the guy who slapped Chris Rock anymore. He was the guy who'd been lying about his marriage, performing for cameras, and building his entire public image on false pretenses. Every tearful moment, every Red Table Talk episode, and every family photo suddenly felt staged and manipulative. But it's even deeper, because the history of Will and Jada's marriage makes everything even more complicated. Jada has openly stated on multiple occasions that she never wanted to marry Will Smith in the first place. She has said publicly that she felt pressured into the wedding because she was young, she was pregnant, and her mother was pushing for a traditional ceremony. If she didn't want anything to do with him, how is it that they're married? How did they even come together? A fateful meeting. In 1992, Jada auditioned to play the role of Will's girlfriend on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but the producers thought she was too short, so she missed out on the role. Later that day, Will was eating lunch with his co-star Alfonso Ribeiro when Jada walked past on her way out. In his memoir, he said it was love at first sight, but Jada was so upset about being denied the role that she didn't pay any attention to him. Alfonso later tracked Jada down for Will and found out she was appearing on the sitcom A Different World. After they finished wrapping up filming on Fresh Prince, they made their way to the set where Jada was filming. They sat in the audience, and his plan was to talk to Jada after they were done filming. However, life had other plans for him. In the audience, he sat next to a woman named Cherie Zampino, and they fell in love. Turns out he never met Jada that day. Instead, he took Cherie out to dinner, and 3 months later, they got married. And the same year, they had their son Trey. It suffices to say that Will and Cherie's marriage was a total disaster. While filming 6 Degrees of Separation, he ended up falling in love with his co-star, Stockard Channing. From then on, he and Cherie started arguing about anything and everything. He even chastised her about the way she was washing their skillets. At one point, Cherie took their son back to her hometown in upstate New York to clear her mind. Little did she know that things would never be the same. Will's friends Dwayne Martin and Tisha Campbell invited him out to a lounge. What they didn't tell him was that they also invited Jada. Dwayne and Tisha knew Will was married, and they also knew his marriage was on the rocks. Yet, they orchestrated this meeting without Jada and Will's knowledge. As Will and Jada started talking about everything under the sun, from college basketball to mysticism to her childhood friend Tupac, Jada apparently realized this was her husband. When Cherie returned home from her trip, she and Will went out to dinner. They hoped they could rekindle their relationship and get their marriage back on track, but instead, something supposedly came over him and he started feeling lightheaded. He ran to the restroom, and while inside a stall, he blatantly realized that he was married to the wrong woman and he needed to be with Jada. Cherie could no longer take it after a while, eventually filing for divorce after realizing she was just Will's placeholder wife. 5 days after receiving the divorce paperwork, Will called Jada, who at the time was in Baltimore, asking her if she was seeing anybody. Jada told him no, and Will responded, "Cool, you're seeing me now." The beginning of a nightmare. Will didn't take any time to process the end of his marriage before he jumped into things with Jada. Right after they hung up the phone, Jada dropped everything she was doing in Baltimore and got on headed back to Los Angeles. Because his divorce was still in process, they kept their relationship on the low. They traveled to exotic locations, having the time of their lives. Despite knowing that Jada was in love with him, Will admitted in his memoir that he was jealous of her deep connection with Tupac. He and Tupac were in the same room together several times, but Will stated in his memoir the way Jada loved Tupac rendered him incapable of being friends with the rapper. Cherie changed her mind and decided they should try to work things out for the sake of their son. And when Will told Jada the latest developments, she encouraged him to return to his family. But Will knew Jada was the woman he wanted to be with, so he signed the divorce papers anyway. And that was that. After discovering they were expecting a baby, Will proposed in late 1997. Jada accepted his proposal, but she wasn't trying to marry that man. She never believed in conventional marriage and she despised traditional wedding ceremonies. She also had questions about the viability of monogamy. In other words, she didn't think she could be in a long-term monogamous marriage. She wanted to commit to him in her own way, without a preacher and without all of the legal paperwork. Although she did not want all that, she was under a lot of pressure from many people, including Will and her mom, Adrienne. Her mom even called Will and told him to stand his ground and not allow Jada to talk him out of getting married in the traditional sense. Because Jada was her only child, Adrienne was worried she would never have the experience of seeing her daughter get married. After the pressure became too much, Jada gave in because she didn't want to let her mom and Will down, but she still wasn't excited about being a bride. She let her mom handle all of the wedding planning, and Jada just showed up and did what she was told to do. Just like that, they got married at a private New Year's Eve ceremony in Baltimore in front of 100 guests. She described her own wedding day as horrible. She literally called it a hostage situation. Her mother, Adrienne Banfield Norris, later apologized for pressuring her into the formal wedding, acknowledging that she dismissed Jada's feelings at the time. Jada has said point-blank that she never wanted to be married at all. But now that she's married, she has to find a way around it. She wasn't willing to file for a legal divorce, but she wasn't willing to stay with Will either, so they separated. But how are they still married if they're separated? A really strange couple. Surprisingly, the decision to separate happened when Will planned an extravagant birthday party for Jada, which was held in Santa Fe, New Mexico. During the party, he surprised her with a documentary he'd commissioned that chronicled her life and traced her family's lineage back to slavery. When they returned to their hotel suite that night, Jada told him that was the most disgusting display of ego she had ever seen in her life. They had an explosive fight and decided to separate. It was at that moment that Will decided he was retiring from trying to make her happy. However, they eventually reconciled, but all of their breakups were taking a toll on them. Will and decided at some point to remain together, but they would no longer be monogamous. Will told GQ magazine the decision.
What's up, GQ? I'm Will Smith, and today I'm going undercover on the internet.
Was based on Jada's desire to not be in a conventional marriage. He added that they had given each other the trust and freedom, believing that everybody has to find their own way, and marriage for them should not be a prison. It's true that every couple can make their own rules regarding how they operate within the confines of their relationship. And for Will and Jada, it appeared that their desire to get involved with other people was working well for them. In 2011, rumors emerged that Jada was having an affair with her Hawthorne co-star Mark Anthony, who was married to Jennifer Lopez at the time. Once source mentioned to US Weekly that Jada and Mark never had a full-blown romantic affair, but they did get inappropriately close. Then in 2015, the rumor mill stated Will was in an affair with his co-star on Focus. That same year, Jada attended the Wireless Festival in London to support Jaden and Willow, who were both performing. While there, 43-year-old Jada met 22-year-old R&B singer August Alsina. From there, Jada and August engaged in an entanglement. Jada later admitted that she and Will were separated at the time, and August also claimed Will gave his blessing for their affair. While people felt sorry that Will had to share his wife with another man, he told GQ magazine that Jada wasn't the only one engaging in relationships outside their marriage. While Jada tried to convince the public that she and Will had a hot and spicy love life, she couldn't keep Tupac's name out of her mouth. She revealed that she and Tupac shared a kiss, but they never got the chance to take things further. In his memoir, Will admitted he felt tortured by the bond Jada and Tupac shared. What was Jada's obsession with Tupac, especially since she said they never got together romantically? Was he the man she really wanted to be with, and Will was her placeholder husband? Unbeknownst to the public, Will and Jada separated in 2016. As rumors of marital strife raged on, Will and Jada continued to present their marriage as intact. Jada told the Today Show that they just weren't ready to come clean and were trying to figure things out behind the scenes. She said several factors broke them apart, and they were exhausted from trying to make things work. She considered a legal divorce but couldn't go through with it. Instead, they have been trying to work things through despite living in separate homes. While they were living separate lives behind the scenes, Will told Rap Radar that he and Jada no longer refer to themselves as married. Instead, they describe themselves as life partners. He added, "There are no deal breakers, and nothing she could do would break their relationship. She has his support until death, and he said it feels good to get to that space. But what about the slap he handed to Chris Rock for her? Was it going to slide just like that?" Grave consequences for Will. Will may be Hollywood's golden boy, but it doesn't mean he can get away with everything. On March 28, 2022, following news that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences had opened a formal review of his behavior, Will issued a public apology via his social media. He admitted that his actions at the ceremony were unacceptable and inexcusable, and expressed regret over his loss of emotional control. While this is certainly a step in the right direction, it's not the punctuation mark on the situation it may appear to be. The Academy's Board of Governors convened an emergency meeting that Wednesday to begin the review process and assess what's next for Will. Possible consequences may have ranged from being permanently banned from attendance, from future events, to expulsion from the Academy altogether. Some in the public have called for these and other similar punishments, and many have even advocated for the revocation of Smith's first-ever Oscar for Best Actor, which he was awarded minutes after assaulting Chris Rock. However, the Academy Governor Whoopi Goldberg has come forward to emphasize that they have no intention of considering this as an option. As the Academy continues to deliberate, Will has repeatedly acknowledged the widespread harm his actions caused and accepted the potentially severe consequences of his behavior, taking a bold step in the process. In another statement, Will Smith once again took responsibility for his attack on Chris Rock, calling his actions, quote, "shocking, painful, and inexcusable." But he didn't stop there. Will also took the drastic step of resigning his Academy membership. As it stands, this move leaves him unable to vote on future Oscar ceremonies and participate in other Academy events. It remains to be seen if he'll still be allowed to present the award for Best Actress next year, seeing as that's traditionally the previous year's Best Actor winner's responsibility. Will has noted that he had responded to the disciplinary hearing notice issued by the Academy and said that, in addition to his resignation, he would accept any further consequences the board deems appropriate. According to him, the list of those he had hurt was long and included Chris, his family, many of his dear friends and loved ones, all those in attendance, and global audiences at home. He said he betrayed the trust of the Academy and deprived other nominees and winners of their opportunity to celebrate and be celebrated for their extraordinary work. He added that he wanted to change in the wake of this event and is now willing to do what he must to ensure that he changes his ways for the better. Shortly after news of Will Smith's resignation reached the public, he received a direct response to his motion. Academy President David Rubin accepted Smith's tender of resignation, but clarified in a statement that he's not off the hook yet. Rubin said they would continue to move forward with their disciplinary proceedings against him for violations of the Academy's standards of conduct. The Academy's board convened again to determine further consequences for Smith, and the result was a 10-year ban. Besides this,
Will Smith has been banned from attending the Oscars or any other Academy events for the next 10 years.
Many celebrities have expressed their thoughts on Will's actions, and not many are on his side. Jim Carrey was even quoted saying if he were Chris Rock, he would slam Will Smith with a $200 million lawsuit the very next day. He further said that while people are free to voice disapproval from their seats or on social media, no one has the right to walk onto a stage and physically strike someone for merely speaking. His career also took a hit. Before the incident, his film, Emancipation, had great anticipation, but after that, the film was released quietly in December 2022, with very minimal promotion. Critics were lukewarm, audiences largely ignored it, and the award season completely shut Will out. For the first time in recent memory, a major Will Smith prestige project failed to gain any traction whatsoever. So, Hollywood Golden Boy is now separated from his wife and trying to rebuild his career that went into a free will because of the same wife. Fans are hopeful that Will Smith would bounce back, but for now, fingers are crossed. Does Jada deserve what Will did for her? And is the mistake correctable? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.